What's going on, guys? It's Danny from Slow Restoration, and we're back to work on the square body. Again, trying to get this thing finished up. As you can see, we have the exhaust, the new exhaust, kind of laid out. We have our shorty headers on there. There and there. They kind of point down on an angle. That's why we're using 45s. And we have a Y pipe, and we're going to tie into that existing system that was there. He's going to do something later, but for right now, kind of budget, we're going to leave what's there. It's got a 3-inch tailpipe, a 3-inch stockish replacement muffler, and just a stick of 3-inch. We'll have to add on to that, but for right now, let's get that Y pipe up here, and then we'll start joining from the shorty headers back to the Y pipe, and then from there we need to see exactly where we need to be to clear all this stuff. I think it's going to work really well. I already kind of mocked a couple things up, but I think that's where we're going to start. We're going to start with that, placing that Y pipe and just kind of building each direction from there. So part of this process, we have that set up there, but part of this process is some decision making and how to the factory a lot of times places stuff the easiest way for them, and it's not the easiest way to work on it later. So we're gonna build this system with working on this truck later in mind, and if he decides he wants to put true duals on this, it won't be hard for him to do that later either. So obviously we have our fuel system there. We don't want to get too close to that. Trans lines should be good. We're kind of wide open down through there. On this side, the only real obstacle we have is that linkage for the shifter right here. It's kind of a crossbar. And then back here, we want to, obviously we don't want to put this pipe, if we're coming down from there, we don't want to put it right under the pan. A lot of times the factory does that, or they'll put it back here to where you cannot get to those back bolts very easily. So we could suck that back a little bit and still be able to access those bolts. But I think what we're going to do is come through here and kind of this notched out area, come behind the cross member here, and then go across. So we'll probably end up having to move that back a little bit, the Y pipe, and then this, which will make this a little bit harder to get out later if need be, the cross member. But the way these are put together, they bolt together here, and they bolt on the top and the bottom of the frame on the inside of the frame. So if you take this off and these 4 bolts, this top bracket pulls off, and this actually can lift up and right out of the way. So I don't think it's going to be difficult at all. You're probably much less likely to pull the cross member out than do a service on the trans and need to get inside the pan for whatever reason. So a little bit of a trade-off, but again, we're going to build this in mind, thinking about future maintenance and modifications. By the way, we are using this, this is actually 2.5 inch, the polished stainless. I think it's 304. Magnet does not stick to it. It's swedged on one end, and you can buy this stuff just as a kit, and it comes with however many pieces you want. I think this actually came with 4 of each, so 4 90s, 4 45s, and 4 sticks of, I think that's 4 foot long pipe, and it actually came with 4 180s also. So plenty enough to do this job, and it'll keep us a little extra. We'll have a little extra of this stuff for some other jobs in the future. We got a little update here in the middle of it. Now everything's just kind of propped up there. I got some bungees and stuff. It's just something you got to do when you work by yourself to get all this lined up and measured up. So nothing's straight, but this is the general direction I think I want to go with this. As we said before, I'm coming behind the cross member, so we have clear access to the pan. We're coming down off that shorty header, and if you look over on the side of the frame, it's just ever so slightly hanging down, but to get clearance back here, that's about where I need to be. Now we're just gonna try, and we got a couple welds already making that front pipe. We have good clearance all through here. I'm liking that so far, so I'm gonna keep moving here and keep heading in this direction. Next step is gonna be actually tacking some of this stuff up here, probably tacking it to this down piece off the header, and getting all this leveled up, getting this nice and straight, and then we'll go ahead and tack this. Once that's done, we'll probably pull that piece down, fully weld all that, and then start from this spot here around, and then we can, with this unwelded, we can still adjust this. And once I get that welded, then I can more securely hold this without all the bungees in the way, and then I can start with this down pipe and join in. Once we get that kind of, well, let's get there and then we'll talk about it. And with that tacked and honestly mostly welded up, we went ahead and just kept on going. We went all the way to the Y pipe this time. We were able to get some nice welds on there, at least enough to hold it together to where we got it now. Drop down on the ground. We can finish all the welds up and finalize that. Then we'll throw it back up in the truck. With that welded up, we have it put back up in there. Again, looking pretty good. It's level this way. The Y pipe's level. We come around to the side here. We're nice and level at the frame there. Going across, everything looks good. I'm pretty happy with that. It doesn't hang any lower than these bolts coming out of the bottom of the frame, so I'm definitely happy with that also. Just looks good, looks the way it should. So moving on to this side, should be fairly easy. We have this 45 here. And obviously we can't go right up on there, so we need to make a piece. We're gonna have that come down again, kind of level at the frame, measure for a piece on the front, and then we'll measure a connecting piece from right here to right there. We got our pieces mocked up and trimmed up, so we have a piece coming out of the V-band adapter, coming down, a second piece on our 45, and then just a straight piece from there straight into the Y pipe that we already had. And if you stand back, you always want to stand back and eye this stuff up. I take a level and put it across the frame and just make it look as good as you can. Sometimes you run into obstacles where it can't be dead straight. For instance, it comes out a slight angle out of the header here, and that we have to do that to clear our steering or our transmission linkage or shift linkage. So it has to kick this way before it goes back, but we still want it, you know, nice and tucked, and we're still just below the frame rail but well above these bolts that are hanging, and everything looks good. So I'm gonna go ahead and start tacking all this up and welding what I can. Then we'll have to drop this whole assembly down, which will be both sides at this point, and then we'll fully weld that. And the last piece will be the connector pipe from here to our old exhaust, and I'm not doing anything from here back. He's going to do that later. He wanted to just reuse what's already there, and I'll probably end up trimming back a little bit just so we can make it a nicer, cleaner shot. But we'll figure that out as soon as I get all the front welded, because sometimes as you're welding this stuff, it does move around a little bit on you. So we'll get that tacked up, drop down, welded up, put back up, and then we should be able to make all these welds on this final 3-inch pipe on the truck. Got that all welded up, so we're ready to go back in the truck and then complete this system with that 3-inch connecting pipe to the old system. But first we got to get this propped up in the truck and get the V-bands tightened up, make sure everything's situated and nothing moved on us, but I think we're good. Everything seemed to weld up pretty good, so in the truck it goes. We got that fitted and welded up, so now we're 100% done with the exhaust system until he decides to do the kind of mid-pipe, muffler, tailpipe later on. We welded, I did have this piece with kind of an S-bend in, 3-inch. It was used, but it's actually nicer than what's back there. So we got all of that welded up. I even put a hanger on there. This is nice and stout now. It's got a hanger there, and it's got two, one on either side of the muffler, so it should be good. If you can take a peek there, it's nice and level, straight. Again, it hangs down just ever so slightly from the frame, but not below these these bolts. So we're good with that. And even in the front, it's got a couple pieces that hang lower, but looks good. I think while I'm down here, I'm gonna go ahead and spin my oxygen sensor in. We got the starter on, some wires hooked up, trying to button up everything from under here. Of course, the fuel system, you saw that last video, is done now. Time to actually start wiring this thing and get it fired up. Thanks for stopping by. Have a good day. Inside the box now. This is, if I remember correct, yeah, that's the drive-by wire harness. We won't need that until we get up top. Here's the main harness.